So I want to go over the details for this proposed outline. This whole situation has been a complete soap opera and roller coaster ride, and not in a good way. Canelo Alvarez, who is he fighting? Information is coming out left and right, different things, completely different things, which is why I tell you guys, this is not the way to negotiate. I've always maintained that. I've always said that. Do not negotiate in the public. Get the deal done, let the ink dry, and just announce what it's going to be. For whatever reason, the people involved, Ring Magazine, they said they have a fight, they have a venue. Then they said it was canceled. Then they said they're going to pursue Boots for Crawford. Now they're saying the fight is back on and Canelo signed a 4-fight deal. So let's go over the details. Now Ring Magazine, and again, this has been a nightmare. So at the time of me recording this video, I don't know if anything changes beyond this. So I'm going off of what it says. I'll tell you the timestamps. Ring Magazine verified page says Turkey Al-Sheikh has revealed a 4-fight deal between Canelo Alvarez and Riyadh season is done. Al-Sheikh has also shared the first fight will be held in Riyadh in May. The Ring has learned of the following plan. So this is the plan, and I want you guys to pay attention. Canelo's first fight in this proposed 4-fight deal would be a fight in Saudi Arabia in May. Save that. Then a big fight in Las Vegas versus Terence Crawford in September. And then a big fight in Saudi Arabia, February of 2026. And then another Saudi Arabia fight in 2026. So, for the record, this proposed 4-fight deal, if Canelo accepts and this pans out or whatnot, 3 of the 4 fights are slated to take place in Saudi Arabia. Very interesting. If this happens, that's very interesting. Reason being, Canelo's from Guadalajara, Mexico. He has like big turnouts when he fights in Las Vegas for his weigh-ins. And now 3 of his 4 fights would be in Saudi Arabia, the first of which would be in May, Cinco de Mayo, right? But to do a Cinco de Mayo fight in Saudi Arabia, that is not even a holiday that they celebrate in Saudi Arabia. So we'll see how diehard Canelo fans are, and if they travel to Saudi Arabia in May to see him fight a reported tune-up fight. Do you see what I'm saying? It's going to be very interesting stuff. Will Canelo fans travel for this? Now, if Canelo's getting a bag and getting crazy money, maybe he doesn't care. But for the good of boxing, I wonder if that changes the complexity of Canelo fights. Like, will this look like a standard Canelo fight if he gets lured to Saudi Arabia and 3 of his next 4 fights are in Saudi Arabia? Will the crowd look the same? Will it have the same feels of a Canelo fight, like when he fought Billy Joe Saunders in Texas, like when he fought against whoever, Munguia, Berlanga in Vegas? Or is Canelo just taking money and, that's his concern? So that's something to think about. The other thing is, there was a reported Jake Paul fight. ESPN says Al-Sheikh, and I highlighted it for you. Al-Sheikh told Canelo Alvarez, that if he proceeded with the planned fight with Jake Paul, his lucrative, previously agreed upon 3-fight deal with Riyadh season was off the table, sources said. Canelo expressed that he didn't want to fight a YouTuber, but that he needed a fight in May, according to sources. So, for whatever reason, Canelo wants to keep to the schedule and he wants a tune-up. I don't know if Crawford is going straight off of a 13-month of inactivity to fight straight in September, plus moving up. This whole thing, to me, if this is true, it still seems like a mess. I'm just being real with you. Still seems like a mess. I've already went over it. Cinco de Mayo is not celebrated in Saudi Arabia. Canelo fights have been known for, the crowd, the fans. Does this change being in another country, right? Does it make Canelo harder to reach or more accessible? I would say harder to reach. All the radical fans that like to go to Canelo with the headbands and stuff like that, you see it. You see the crowd. Even David Benavidez, who he's not as storied and accomplished as Canelo, but he's definitely grown his fan base. His fight with David Morrell felt electric, right? Now they're talking about 3 of his 4 fights could be in Saudi Arabia, and if that's what it is, then that's what it is. Let's keep going. ESPN also is reporting that his first fight would be against possibly Jermall Charlo. Now, I want to stop right there because the report said that Canelo had a Jake Paul fight on the table with PBC or Netflix, right? So ESPN is reporting that Jermall Charlo is one of the options for Canelo, right? He's one of the options. But if Canelo snaked PBC, is Jermall Charlo still going to be an offer where they'll give him up to go appear on the Riyadh season card while Canelo is doing a 4-fight deal potentially with Riyadh season? I would guess no, but it's not my call, right? The other name that ESPN said for the first tune-up fight would be Surase, which Munguia was supposed to rematch because he got knocked out by the guy. Again, this is not a big fight to me. Canelo, just because the guy beat Munguia, Canelo already beat Munguia. So to make Canelo versus Surase Cinco de Mayo weekend in Saudi Arabia, I mean, have at it. Let's keep going. ESPN is saying fight 2 will be against Terence Crawford September 13th in Las Vegas. So that's the one American fight. I've already talked about the fight. If Crawford got it, he got it. Cool. But one person's going to have to lose, and it's going to be Canelo or Crawford. If Crawford loses at his age, he'll be 38 in September. I mean, what does he do from there? Does he continue fighting or does he retire? Especially if he loses bad by knockout or something, right? For Canelo, it's going to be embarrassing if he loses to a smaller man who just barely got to 154, only has one fight at 154, and then jumps up another 14 pounds. So, again, good luck with this. Crawford is a great fighter, skilled fighter, but I don't believe that he has the earning potential like some of the other super fights we've seen. People keep billing this as a mega fight like it's Mayweather-Pacquiao, Mayweather-McGregor, Canelo versus Golovkin 1 and 2, right? Oscar De La Hoya versus Tito Trinidad. These were big fights at the time. Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather and Ricky Hatton, Cotto, Canelo, Shane Mosley, Pacquiao, Cotto, Shane Mosley. These were big fights. We'll see. At best, we'll see. I think with Crawford potentially being off 13 months, giving up so much weight, I don't know if the anticipation is there. Plus, at his debut at 154 with Madrimov, he looked human. So now he's going to go up. Again, the Bud Buddies, they seem very confident. We'll see. But like I said, if Crawford goes out there and dusts off Canelo, then Canelo still has 2 more fights with Riyadh season where they're going to owe him crazy amount of money. Seems like a weird game plan. Now let's keep going. Fight 3 is planned for February 2026. Sources said, with 3 names on the table: Dimitri Bivol rematch, Hamza Shiraz, and Chris Eubank Jr. fight planned for October of 2026. Now we're getting somewhere. I posted, again, my opinion hasn't changed. I posted, this is just hilarious. So ESPN is outlining, per their sources, a 4-fight plan for Canelo Alvarez. The only way, listen to me, people, the only way this works in boxing is if you preserve the fighters or if they sit on the sideline. Like, Terence Crawford, stay inactive for 13 months. Don't take a tune-up because you could look vulnerable at the higher weight classes. That's the only way you could guarantee that someone stays preserved, right? Let me keep going. If the fighters are active and fighting good competition, there ain't no telling what is going to happen. So I said this is where it gets fickle. It says Bivol rematch and Hamza Shiraz. Both guys are fighting February 22nd. Bivol already lost to Beterbiev. He could lose this one by knockout, right? Hamza Shiraz is on the same card fighting against Carlos Adames. How is Turkey in Ring and Riyadh season planning this far in advance in a sport like boxing, especially when two of the fighters they're talking about being Canelo opponents for 2026 have a fight in a couple weeks that they may not win? And then the other guy, which is Chris Eubank Jr., he too has a fight with Conor Benn, who is promising to knock out Chris Eubank Jr. So even if Turkey did lure Canelo in for a 4-fight deal, I mean, at what cost? At what cost? The biggest fight that I'm hearing here is Terence Crawford by a long shot. And I don't even think that's the mega fight that some people think it is because of the disparity of weight. But Canelo Sudase, Canelo versus Chris Eubank, Canelo versus Shiraz, and even a Bivol rematch. For starters, we need to see the outcomes. What if Bivol gets knocked out? Is Canelo fighting Bivol in a rematch in Saudi the desired fight? What if Hamza Shiraz loses bad to Carlos Adames? Are we still talking about Canelo fighting Hamza Shiraz in 2026? What if Chris Eubank gets knocked out? This is the same problem that I've told you guys about. And it persists and is coming from Turkey's side in Ring in Riyadh season. This is not the way, people, for boxing. I've been in the business far too long. You can't map out a year in advance. Again, the only way that would work is if you had fighters who were on the sidelines or something and there was no activity, which is not good for a fighter in terms of ring rust and being inactive. So again, even if this is true and Turkey did lure Canelo to fight on Riyadh season, a lot of these fights don't really sound appealing. And I think Canelo will get paid. I give him that. Canelo is a businessman, so maybe he likes the offer, and there were plans. Some people said he was using the Jake Paul offer as leverage to negotiate a better deal with Turkey. Who knows? That's a tactic we know that exists in terms of business. I don't know what Canelo will decide. I told you from the beginning, let's wait for Canelo to decide. All this like publications and entities announcing for Canelo, messy. It is confusing. Fans are getting tired. You really just tap out. Is it too exhausting? But even if this 4-fight plan does, in fact, even though we've heard pieces of news that was true, then not true, and true, and all that type of stuff, all the back and forth, this 4-fight plan, like I said, even if you lured Canelo, at what cost? People are saying you got to give him $1 billion or $500 million. What is the goal here? $500 million to fight Sudase and Crawford, a guy 2 divisions, 3 divisions lower than him, and then Chris Eubank and Hamza Shiraz? And then people are like, Turkey is saving boxing. This is the best fight I ever seen. This looked not really much different than any of Canelo's fights on DAZN. This really doesn't. To be honest, from a business perspective and a fanfare, I feel like a Caleb Plant rematch, a PBC fighter, and of course the fight I want to see which is David Benavidez, that's the fight to make. That is the number one fight I've always talked about on my channel. So all this other stuff is excess. You have people who are celebrating like, oh, Canelo might sign the Riyadh season. It's possible. Money talks, but what fights are you getting as a result? Are you getting the number one fight that everybody wants, which is David Benavidez? It's like they're trying to brainwash you into reveling in Canelo versus Crawford as this mega fight. I've even seen people like, oh, Floyd Mayweather did it. Floyd did it in 2013. And if you know anything about boxing, despite being a very good fighter, Terence Crawford fights nothing like Floyd Mayweather. So what is the comparison we're making? That's like me saying, oh, but Manny Pacquiao beat Juan Manuel Marquez, so Joe Schmo, Casamayor, or somebody else is going to do it. Like, what are we talking about? Like, different fighters, different approaches, different strengths, weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. So we have to wait, hear from Canelo. By the time this video comes out, maybe he's revealed it. But all I know is this has been difficult to keep up with. It's been a mess. You have people like celebrating. And it's funny because everything I said remains the same. Turkey's trying to flex like, oh, don't mess with the lion and stuff like that. A lot of these fights don't sound like mind-blowing to me. They don't sound like big, huge events. So, again, if Canelo gamed and worked the system, played the sides against each other, got $1 billion, $1 trillion, whatever, and they had to open up the checkbook, more power to him in terms of a businessman. But boxing is not really about how much the fighters are getting from the sake of a fan. We want to see what fight you're going to make. I've always said it, the number one fight for Canelo is David Benavidez. If we're not talking about David Benavidez and Canelo, what are we really talking about? Because from what this 4 fight, which I told you can't really outline 4 fights in advance, but from what this is depicting, these fights don't really sound appetizing to me. And you take Canelo out of the market he's been in, America, since he was 19 years old. So, again, good luck with that. If you guys like it and you like the Crawford fight, have at it. But clearly the Crawford fight is the best out of what's being mentioned here, in my opinion. But, as far as Bivol, that's a good fight or a solid fight. But I can't even say that because what if Beterbiev beats the brakes off of Bivol? Then I feel like the Canelo should have rematched Bivol by now already. Because if Bivol gets battered by Beterbiev, then that's 2 very grueling fights and very tough fights. So if he rematches Canelo after that fact, then guess what? It might not even be the same Bivol. So that's kind of it's almost like not fair. Canelo had an immediate rematch clause to fight Bivol, didn't do it, waited for the policy to expire, and then you wait for a guy like Beterbiev to potentially beat Bivol twice, and then now after he's got some mileage put on him by a heavy puncher, now you want to rematch him? So I wouldn't be impressed with that. But again, it's boxing. Bivol could win versus Beterbiev. I'm picking Beterbiev though, but I could be wrong. We have to see how some of this stuff plays out, and most importantly, we got to see what Canelo himself decides. At this point, I need to see a flyer, a press conference to ensure what's going on. This whole thing has been handled like a soap opera, and it's very messy. But again, you got trolls and stuff. They're celebrating like, yeah, Canelo's with Turkey. Go to Saudi Arabia and watch the fights then. If this is true, go enjoy Canelo versus Hamza Shiraz and Chris Eubank in Sudase. Send me a postcard. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like any of these fights that are being proposed by ESPN, allegedly from Turkey? And again, I've already told you this. You can't map out a fighter's year like this. It just does not work in the sport of boxing. Things change so frequently. People get upset by guys like, look at Jaime Munguia. Nobody thought this Frenchman would beat him, and then the guy beat him. You know what I mean? So it doesn't even make sense to look beyond this. So much can happen. Like, I remember Canelo was slated to fight Paul Williams, and some of you guys don't know this, but I've been in boxing so long. Canelo was supposed to fight Paul Williams, and he gets in a freak car or motorcycle accident, and then he becomes paralyzed. This is life and things you can't really like account for. So obviously the fight got scrapped, the idea of it. But a young Canelo was supposed to fight him. Another Canelo story, because again, you weren't there. Canelo was supposed to fight Victor Ortiz. Golden Boy had it all pretty much lined up. And then what happened? Victor Ortiz ends up getting upset by Josecito Lopez. So the proposed fight, since he got upset, never actually happened. It never came into fruition. See, here's the picture from it, right? This was the plan. I'm telling you boxing. I'm giving you guys boxing history. The plan was for Victor Ortiz to fight Canelo Alvarez, a young Canelo Alvarez. But Victor Ortiz got upset, so the fight never actually happened. I remember Andre Berto, he was supposed to fight Shane Mosley. I could do this all day. You guys don't know boxing, a lot of you. But Berto being Haitian, I believe there was a disastrous look. You see Shane Mosley, you see Berto. See, I'm giving you gems that you guys didn't even know about. Look, they had a face-off and everything. But there was an earthquake in Haiti, and Berto had to pull out the fight because he had family and stuff. And the fight never happened as a result. I could do this on and on because I could think of several fights where this happened, where guys were supposed to fight, one thing led to another, and the fight didn't come into fruition. Politics, injuries, failed drug tests, all types of stuff, natural disasters. So I maintain everything that I've said in my content regarding how Ring has conducted this. Fights on, fights off, fights on, fights off. Boxing fans don't need all that. If you sign Canelo to a 4-fight deal, then it should remain anonymous, a mystery, and in the background until you're ready to announce. Another example where Ring did this is Turkey said a couple weeks ago, Devin Haney and Ryan are fighting on the same card. We still haven't got a press conference, press tour, like a firm announcement with the graphic. Tickets haven't went on sale. So it's like this continues to happen. And I think it's truly, truly bad for the sport of boxing to see the information prematurely leak when it's really not ready for the public. Just wait. That is my only advice. But as far as the fights, let me know what you guys think. Do you like this 4-fight plan? 3 of Canelo's fights in Saudi Arabia. Do you think that changes, like, you know, the crowd and how it looks and the energy to Canelo's fights? We've never seen him fight. I don't think he's really fought anywhere abroad except for Mexico. Like, he fought in Mexico, but he never fought in the UK that I can remember. And he definitely didn't fight in Saudi Arabia. So if this is true, this would be brand new. Let me know what you think.